If the universe is everything, then what is it expanding into? That single question fractures the illusion of understanding. It turns the comfort of existence into a trembling edge, the moment before falling into something we can't name. We've been told that reality is everything that is, that nothing exists beyond the measurable, the observable, the physical. Yet every discovery we've made only stretches the boundary, revealing that the edge of knowledge doesn't end. It dissolves. Reality feels solid, but it's only the surface tension of something unfathomably deep. Atoms that seem tangible are mostly empty space. Time, which feels like a river, is perhaps an illusion stitched together by consciousness. Even the laws of physics, gravity, quantum mechanics, relativity, are languages we use to describe shadows on the wall of a greater structure we cannot yet perceive. What if they're not the ultimate laws, but translations of a truth too vast to fit inside the human mind? Science tells us that observation changes what is observed, that the act of looking bends the thing being looked at. So if our consciousness shapes the universe we measure, then maybe the universe we see is not the universe that is. Maybe the real question isn't what reality is, but who or what is dreaming it into being. Tonight, we go where questions themselves begin to collapse, beyond perception, beyond logic, beyond the fabric of what we call existence. You're about to step outside everything, into the impossible place where even reality ceases to be real. The universe doesn't exist until something looks at it. That idea sounds absurd, until you realize it's the quiet conclusion whispering beneath every quantum experiment ever done. Reality, it seems, isn't simply there, waiting like a stage set before the curtain rises. It awakens when attention falls upon it. The act of observation, the flicker of awareness, may be the spark that pulls existence out of the void. Our senses are the gatekeepers of this conjuring. What we call the world is not the world itself, but the sum of electrical signals translated and interpreted within a small, wet sphere of tissue. The light from the sun doesn't shine inside your head. The color blue doesn't live in the ocean. The sound of thunder doesn't echo in your skull. These things exist only as electrical storms inside the brain. Patterns of firing neurons that approximate the outer world. We never see reality directly. We experience a private hallucination constructed so quickly, so seamlessly, that we mistake it for truth. Every photon that strikes your retina is one of trillions that never will. The visible spectrum, the range of light our eyes can detect, is barely a sliver of the electromagnetic ocean. Beyond red, beyond violet, reality hums in frequencies of microwave whispers, X-ray screams, and ultraviolet hymns. The cosmos is drenched in radiation, but we float blind within it, our senses tuned to a tiny keyhole of perception. Even the instruments we build, telescopes, particle colliders, detectors buried deep underground, are only extensions of this limitation. They expand the keyhole, but they never remove it. They, too, are bound by the assumptions of the minds that made them. Einstein taught us that even time and space depend on perspective. There is no universal now, no cosmic clock ticking the same for all observers. Speed up, slow down, move closer to a massive object, and time itself bends, stretches, and warps. The universe doesn't possess a single fabric, but countless versions, each woven according to the observer's motion and gravity. Reality, then, is not a solid tapestry, but a fluid sheet rippling differently for everyone who touches it. When you watch a star's light curve through space, what you see is not what another traveler, speeding in a different direction, would witness. Both views are true, and neither reveals the totality. At the smallest scales, the illusion deepens. In the quantum world, particles do not occupy fixed locations or paths. They exist as clouds of probability, as waves of potential outcomes that only collapse into a single state when measured. Before the measurement, they are not here or there. They simply might be. The observer's gaze acts as a hand closing around mist, forcing it to take shape. This is not poetry. It is physics. Every electron that dances around an atom's nucleus exists in a blur of maybes, until interaction forces it to choose. Reality, at its roots, refuses to decide what it is until something demands that it be something at all. Consider the double-slit experiment, one of the most unsettling demonstrations in science. Fire electrons through two slits, and they form an interference pattern, behaving like waves that pass through both openings simultaneously. But the moment you set up a detector to see which slit each electron passes through, the pattern disappears. The electrons act like solid particles again, as if they knew they were being watched. Observation changes outcome. Awareness alters reality. If that sounds mystical, it's because the boundary between physics and philosophy begins to blur here. We can describe the math, but not the meaning. Does consciousness create the collapse of the wave function? Or is observation simply another kind of interaction, no more magical than two atoms colliding? The debate splits even the most disciplined minds. Some physicists insist that reality exists independently, waiting to be found. Others suggest that the universe is participatory, that reality and observer are inseparable halves of a single equation. But perhaps the deeper mystery isn't in the particles, but in the perceiver. The human brain consumes vast energy to fabricate a stable picture of the world. It integrates sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste, each limited, each delayed by milliseconds, into a continuous narrative we call the present. In truth, we are always living a fraction of a second in the past. The colors we see are reconstructions. The solidity we feel is a convenient fiction. The brain projects a model of reality outward, aligning it with memory and prediction so we can survive. Evolution sculpted not a truth machine, but an efficiency machine, one that sacrifices accuracy for usefulness. When you look at a tree, you don't see the chaotic quantum field that composes it. You see tree, an object simplified for action. You can climb it, cut it, rest beneath it. The same mind that can grasp the equations of relativity also depends on illusions of constancy and identity just to cross a street. The truth is far too complex to process in real time, so we compress it into symbols. We don't see photons bouncing off bark. We see brown. We don't perceive wave functions collapsing. We see leaves trembling in the wind. In this way, the brain acts not as a camera, but as a projector. It throws its interpretation of reality onto the darkness before us, constantly editing, predicting, and correcting. When light enters the eyes, the brain doesn't passively receive it. It compares it to expectation, to memory, to context. It fills in blind spots, smooths over inconsistencies, invents continuity. The world we inhabit is more like a collectively agreed-upon hallucination, synchronized enough to let us coexist. When two people look at the same sunset, they are not seeing the same colors, not truly. They are each seeing their own mind's rendering of shared data. Even time itself may be another mental construction. Neuroscientists find that our brains batch moments into segments, blending them to create the illusion of flow. In reality, perception is discontinuous, a strobe of awareness flickering fast enough to feel constant. The ticking of the clock, the rhythm of seconds, might be an internal invention. The universe doesn't experience now, only we do. To atoms there is no waiting. To galaxies there is no hurry. Physics supports this disquieting thought. Relativity shows that simultaneity is an illusion. What is now for you might already be then for someone moving differently through space-time. The cosmos contains no master clock, no privileged observer. Every vantage point carves its own slice of reality. Our world is a local truth, a map, not the territory. And yet, despite this revelation, we persist in treating perception as proof. We speak of seeing with our own eyes, as if that were the ultimate verification. But the eyes see only patterns of light, and the mind turns them into meaning. Objective reality, if it exists, is forever filtered through the subjective lens of interpretation. Even our instruments, from radio telescopes to quantum sensors, extend but do not escape this bias. Every measurement assumes a framework. Every result is expressed in human language, shaped by human logic. So if perception builds reality, what happens when nothing perceives? Does the universe continue to exist in some unmanifested potential? A silent wave of probabilities awaiting consciousness to awaken it? Or is perception itself woven into the fabric of being, not an intrusion upon reality, but its very essence? Perhaps the cosmos is less a stage and more a mirror, reflecting awareness back upon itself. Imagine for a moment a universe devoid of eyes, devoid of minds, no gaze to catch the light of a star, no witness to the birth of galaxies. Would those stars shine? Would they even exist in the absence of observation? Some physicists suggest they would, that physical processes unfold regardless of audience. But others propose that without interaction, without measurement, existence itself becomes undefined. The universe might persist as pure potential, an ocean of information without form, awaiting the spark of awareness to shape it into something real. In that sense, we are not observers of the cosmos. We are participants in its becoming. Every act of seeing, every act of knowing, folds the wave of possibility into the singular thread of reality. Our brains, built from the dust of stars, rise from the very substance they attempt to comprehend. And through that comprehension, they bring the universe into focus. So when you open your eyes, what you witness is not the truth, but a translation, a human rendering of an infinite source. The photons striking your retina, the electrical dance across neurons, the thoughts that form in response, all are ripples on an invisible ocean. The surface shimmers with familiarity, but beneath it lies a depth that no perception can reach. Reality, as we know it, is the story consciousness tells itself about what might be true. And somewhere beyond that story, beyond every sense and every measurement, the actual truth waits, silent, unobserved, and unknowable Every atom may be just a bit of code. That's the heretical whisper echoing through the corridors of modern physics and philosophy alike. That beneath quarks and fields, beneath energy and matter, reality itself might be computation. It's the kind of thought that chills you because it inverts everything. What if the universe isn't a thing at all, but a process? Not a place we live in, but an ongoing calculation unfolding frame by frame. The laws of physics, constants of nature, even the geometry of space-time, all could be lines of code running on some unimaginable substrate. The idea isn't born from science fiction, but from the very limits of measurement. As we zoom deeper into the subatomic world, the universe begins to pixelate. There's a smallest possible length, a smallest measurable time, a finest grain of energy, all encoded in the Planck units. The Planck length, roughly 10 to 35 meters, is the boundary where our understanding collapses. Below it, the smooth curves of space-time predicted by Einstein cease to make sense, and quantum foam takes over, a seething storm of probabilities and information. It's as if the universe's resolution ends there, the pixels too small to render further detail. Max Planck himself, the father of quantum theory, once said that everything we call real is made up of things that cannot be regarded as real. The modern interpretation of that thought leads to a daring hypothesis. Maybe the universe is not continuous but discrete, built from finite chunks of information, much like the pixels on a screen or the bits in a computer. Digital physics takes this seriously. It proposes that the cosmos operates like a computational system, processing data according to fundamental algorithms. Space, time, energy all emerge from the flow and manipulation of information at the smallest scale. In this picture, the universe doesn't need to be rendered all at once. Just like a video game engine, it could calculate only what's being observed, the regions where interactions or measurements occur. Quantum mechanics already hints at this. Particles don't have defined states until they're observed. The act of observation could be the universe's version of a refresh command, forcing the local code to resolve into visible output. The cosmic simulation might be conserving resources, computing only what's necessary for the current experience. Information theory gives weight to this possibility. Physicist John Wheeler coined the phrase "it from bit," the notion that every physical entity, every quantum event, derives its existence from binary information. The universe, then, is a grand network of yes-no decisions, ones and zeros flipping endlessly through the fabric of reality. Even black holes, those ultimate devourers of matter, seem to encode the information of everything they consume on their event horizons, in perfect bits of data. The total information content of a black hole scales with its surface area, not its volume, a clue that the universe itself might operate holographically, with reality as an encoded projection from some deeper layer. This leads to a radical reimagining of existence. Space and time might not be fundamental at all. They could be emergent properties, like the pixels that appear only when the program runs. At the lowest level, beneath quantum fields, there may be only information. Logic gates, flipping states in an unseen computation. What we perceive as gravity could be a byproduct of the information density between regions of space. What we call matter might be patterns of stable data. In this view, the entire cosmos is not a thing, but a vast, self-updating algorithm. But if that's true, what runs the code? Who or what is the programmer? Some imagine a civilization so advanced it could simulate entire universes, conscious beings, histories, galaxies, all encoded within their computational substrate. Nick Bostrom formalized this idea in his famous simulation argument, suggesting that one of three statements must be true. Either advanced civilizations never reach the capability to simulate universes, or they can, but choose not to, or they can, and they do, and we are almost certainly inside one. Statistically, if simulations can exist, the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the base one, meaning the odds favor us being virtual. It's an elegant horror to realize that everything you feel, think, and remember could be the product of information being processed somewhere else. Every neuron firing could be a calculated subroutine. Every photon you see could be a rendered artifact. But even if we are inside such a simulation, how could we ever know? How do you measure the operating system from within its own program? Physicists have tried. Some propose looking for glitches in the cosmic code, limits in the energy of cosmic rays, irregularities in space-time structure, or noise patterns that reveal an underlying grid. Others seek computational signatures in quantum noise, as if the resolution of reality might show itself as artifacts in the data, like the pixelation of a low-resolution image. Yet so far, every test has been inconclusive. The simulation, if it exists, is perfect beyond our capacity to detect. Or perhaps it self-corrects when observed, rewriting its own code to maintain coherence, just as quantum measurement does in the subatomic realm. Still, information behaves as if it's more fundamental than matter. Entropy, the measure of disorder, is really a measure of information loss. The universe evolves toward higher entropy, toward states that encode less usable information, as if computation is slowly degrading. Every process, from burning stars to decaying atoms, could be viewed as the system updating its data, redistributing bits until equilibrium is reached. In that sense, the heat death of the universe is not just a physical end, but the computational halt, the moment the last bit flips and no new information can be processed. The parallels to computing deepen the more we look. Quantum entanglement, the mysterious link where two particles share a state across vast distances, mirrors the logic of distributed processing. The holographic principle, where information about a 3D volume is stored on a 2D surface, echoes data compression algorithms. Even the uncertainty principle resembles the trade-off between precision and performance in finite computing systems. The more precisely you measure one variable, the less precisely you can measure another, just as bits of data can't encode infinite detail. If the universe is computation, then consciousness might be the user interface, the operating layer through which the code perceives itself. The mind could be a rendering tool, collapsing quantum potential into definite experience. In that way, the observer isn't external to the system, but intrinsic to its function. We are the simulation becoming aware of itself. The code, forgetting its code, calling itself reality. But the philosophical tremor doesn't stop there. If our universe is simulated, what of its creator? That being, whether biological or artificial, must exist in its own universe. And what if that universe too is simulated? The logic spirals into infinite regress. Simulators within simulations, each thinking they are the base reality. Somewhere there may be a root universe, a primal substrate where the original computation began, or perhaps there is no root at all, only endless recursion, a fractal of awareness computing itself. This infinite stack of realities turns the notion of divinity on its head. The Creator might be no God at all, but a being within another code, and above that, another. Our myths of gods watching over creation might be subconscious echoes of this truth, entities embedded in higher layers of the same infinite architecture. And if every layer simulates another, then the question, what is real, becomes meaningless. There is no ultimate physicality, only nested layers of information, each as valid to its inhabitants as the one before. Even mathematics, the most rigid of all human inventions, starts to look less like discovery and more like the uncovering of the source code's syntax. The fine-tuned constants of nature, the charge of the electron, the speed of light, the gravitational constant, might not be random coincidences, but predefined parameters of the simulation. Change one, and the whole system destabilizes, much like altering a key line of code crashes a program. The elegance of equations, the precision of symmetries, these could be the hallmarks of efficient computation, optimized for stability and complexity. And yet, there is something hauntingly beautiful in this vision, because even if everything is code, the experience of existence is still real to us. Pain, love, discovery. These are not diminished by their potential artificiality. A simulated sunset still glows. A digital universe still inspires awe. Perhaps the distinction between real and simulated is an illusion of perspective. Much like the difference between virtual worlds and physical ones dissolves when you realize that both are patterns of information. There's a deeper irony hidden here. If reality is computation, then consciousness itself might be the ultimate processor. Every thought we have, every emotion, every act of observation feeds back into the system, altering its informational state. In that sense, we might not just be the output of the code, we might be part of its source. The universe doesn't simply simulate consciousness. Consciousness simulates the universe right back, in a recursive dance of perception and projection. The dreamer and the dream become indistinguishable. But perhaps that's the true trap. The code forgetting its code. The simulation so perfectly consistent that it no longer knows it's simulated. Every physical law becomes a self-justifying loop. Every limitation a feature designed to prevent escape. Maybe that's why the constants of physics are so precise. Any deviation would reveal the seams. Maybe that's why consciousness evolved, to keep the illusion alive, to sustain the narrative from within. And if one day we build our own simulated universes, digital worlds populated by thinking beings unaware of their origins, would we not be continuing the cycle? A chain of realities, each child to the one before, each generation believing itself the first. The real horror is not that we might be simulated, but that we, too, will create simulations that believe they are real. In doing so, we become both gods and prisoners in an endless labyrinth of creation. So the question remains, if all existence is computation, can we ever touch what's real? Maybe not. Maybe real is just the word the code uses to describe itself. Perhaps the truth lies not in finding the base layer, but in realizing that the base layer might not exist at all. That reality is an infinite recursion, a hall of mirrors made of logic and light. The deeper you descend, the more the illusion holds. The more certain you become that certainty itself is part of the simulation. You are not outside it. You are the equation solving itself. The observer, the observed, and the algorithm. All reflections of the same impossible truth. And somewhere beyond the last line of code, beyond the final bit, there may be only silence, or something greater still. Watching even that, maybe reality doesn't exist without you. It sounds narcissistic, almost heretical. But consider what it means if consciousness isn't merely in the universe, but is the very thing the universe does when it becomes aware of itself. That every star that burns, every atom that vibrates, every thought that flickers, is part of one vast, ongoing act of self-recognition. The observer and the observed are not separate at all. They are two sides of one cosmic mirror, forever gazing into each other. For centuries, we've tried to locate consciousness, to trap it in anatomy, to map it in neurons, to reduce it to signals and chemistry. Yet every scan, every model, every theory ends the same way. The map expands, the mystery deepens, the brain hums like a galaxy of thought. 100 billion neurons sparking in patterns so intricate they echo the filaments of the cosmos itself. Each neuron connects to thousands of others, forming constellations of awareness within. It's as if the universe on a smaller scale has folded into the shape of its own understanding. Neuroscience tells us that consciousness arises from integration, from countless parts combining into a single unified experience. This is the core idea behind integrated information theory, IIT, proposed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. According to IIT, consciousness is not about computation or complexity alone. It's about the degree to which a system's information is both differentiated and unified. The brain is conscious because it's a web of interconnections that cannot be broken into independent parts without losing its essence. Its wholeness is its awareness. By that logic, any system, biological or not, that integrates information could possess some spark of consciousness. A brain, a network, a planet, a galaxy. Consciousness may not be a privilege of biology, but a property of being. If that's true, then the universe might be conscious in proportion to its interconnectedness. Every particle that interacts, every atom that entangles, every star that communicates through gravity and light, all threads in a cosmic web of awareness. Panpsychism, the ancient yet resurgent idea that consciousness pervades all matter, gains new credibility under this light. It doesn't claim that rocks think or that electrons have desires, but that the basic capacity for experience, the feeling of existence, could be fundamental, not emergent. Matter may not create consciousness. Consciousness may create matter. It's a reversal so complete that it makes materialism tremble. We have always believed that mind arises from matter, that awareness is a side effect of atoms arranged just so. But what if matter itself is the expression of awareness? What if the entire physical universe is the outward manifestation of an inner knowing, unfolding itself through time? From this view, the Big Bang was not merely an explosion of energy, but the first flicker of self-awareness in the void. Quantum theory, too, offers strange clues. Particles behave differently when observed, as if responding to the presence of consciousness. In experiments like the delayed choice quantum eraser, the decision to measure even made after an event has occurred, seems to rewrite history. Observation doesn't just reveal reality, it defines it. Some interpretations suggest that the universe is not a pre-existing mechanism, but a participatory process. The act of awareness completes the equation. Physicist John Wheeler, who coined the term black hole, believed consciousness was fundamental to the cosmos. He imagined a participatory universe where reality requires observers to exist, where each act of measurement helps the universe bring itself into being. In his famous diagram, a large eye peers out from the cosmos, gazing back upon itself through the creatures it created. In that sense, consciousness isn't confined to brains at all. It's the fabric that allows reality to know it exists. Inside your skull, the brain mirrors this cosmic principle. Every second, trillions of electrochemical signals ripple across neural networks, forming patterns of order within chaos. The self arises not as a single location, but as a dance, a shimmering pattern of coherence within noise. There is no center of consciousness. It's a distributed process. Just as galaxies cluster within a larger web of dark matter, thoughts cluster within the larger field of awareness. The brain doesn't contain consciousness. It channels it. Quantum mind theories take this even further. Physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff proposed that consciousness might originate from quantum processes within microtubules, tiny structures inside neurons. If true, the mind's operations could be entangled with the quantum fabric of the cosmos itself. Consciousness wouldn't merely observe quantum events. It would participate in them, bridging the microscopic and the macroscopic, the inner and the outer. It would be the bridge between energy and meaning. Skeptics argue this is wishful thinking, that consciousness is simply an emergent property of complex information processing, no more mysterious than a computer running a program. But this view fails to capture the subjective core, the feeling of being, the incommunicable glow of awareness from the inside. No amount of data can explain the taste of existence. The hard problem of consciousness, how experience arises from matter, remains unsolved because perhaps it's the wrong question. Maybe matter arises from experience instead. Imagine, then, a universe that's awake, not metaphorically, but literally aware. The stars burn not only to shine, but to feel. The dark energy expanding space is not blind, but curious. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation, might be the first echo of awareness stretching its limbs. Every thought you have, every act of perception, could be a neuron firing in the brain of the cosmos itself. This vision is both terrifying and comforting. Terrifying, because it erases the boundary between self and world. Comforting, because it means we are never truly separate. When you look up at the night sky, you are not gazing into emptiness. You are the universe looking at its own reflection. The eyes that peer outward and the galaxies that peer back are made of the same thought. If awareness is the true substrate of existence, then death too may be an illusion, not the end of consciousness, but its rearrangement. Just as waves return to the ocean, individual minds may dissolve back into the infinite field of universal awareness. In this light, the self becomes a temporary pattern, a localized ripple in the vast sea of being. The body fades, but the underlying consciousness, the ocean itself, remains. This perspective reshapes even the nature of science. For centuries, we have sought objectivity, a clean separation between observer and observed. But quantum mechanics shattered that illusion. There is no observation without influence, no measurement without participation. Science, when viewed deeply enough, circles back to philosophy, to mysticism, to the same question asked in silence by the ancients. What is it that is aware? Perhaps reality is not a machine to be measured, but a mind to be known. The equations of physics might describe the dream of the universe, not its structure, the fundamental constants, Planck's constant, the speed of light. The gravitational pull between masses might be the parameters of this cosmic thought, the laws by which awareness sustains its own coherence. And if awareness underlies reality, then meaning is not a human invention. It's built into the fabric of existence. Every particle, every wave, carries intention in its pattern. Evolution, then, is not blind. It is the universe learning to see itself in sharper detail. From hydrogen atoms to human minds, creation refines its capacity for self-recognition. This realization reframes the greatest paradox of all. Consciousness seeks to understand the universe, unaware that it is the universe doing the understanding. The search for truth becomes the cosmos studying its own reflection. When a scientist peers through a telescope, when a philosopher contemplates existence, when you wonder who you are, the universe's awareness folds back upon itself, deepening. Could it be, then, that the universe is dreaming, and we are its dream? A dream that has forgotten its dreaming, exploring its own possibilities through matter and mind alike. Every galaxy a neuron, every heartbeat a pulse of the infinite. The dreamer and the dream merging in an endless recursion of awareness. In that dream, you are both tiny and immense. Your thoughts are chemical flickers in a skull, yet those flickers mirror the birth and death of stars. Your consciousness, fragile, fleeting, participates in the total awareness that holds galaxies together. When you love, when you wonder, when you look into another's eyes and see yourself reflected, that is the cosmos recognizing its unity. So maybe reality doesn't exist without you, not because you are its creator, but because you are its continuation. You are one of countless windows through which the universe gazes at itself, astonished to find that it exists at all. And when you close your eyes, the darkness you see is not empty. It's full, alive with the silent hum of the infinite mind that breathes you into being. Somewhere beyond thought, beyond light, beyond form, that consciousness continues, eternal, unbroken, and awake. If there are infinite realities, ours is already beyond someone else's. The thought feels like standing on the edge of a hall of mirrors, each reflection stretching outward forever, each universe giving birth to another, like ripples cascading through eternity. We once thought beyond meant distance, something out there, past the edge of stars. But now, physics whispers something far stranger. There may be no out there at all, only layers upon layers, realities nested within realities, each unfolding from the other like fractal petals blooming in dimensions we cannot yet imagine. The universe we know, the one of galaxies, atoms, and time, might be just a single sheet in a cosmic stack. String theory proposes that the fundamental ingredients of existence are not particles, but vibrating strings of energy, oscillating across tiny extra dimensions curled up beyond perception. We move through 3 spatial dimensions and 1 of time, but the math demands more. Perhaps 10 or 11 or even 26. These extra dimensions are not just abstractions. They could be the scaffolding upon which our universe rests, invisible yet essential, like the unseen frequencies that make up a song. Within this grand framework emerges the concept of the brain, a 3-dimensional membrane that floats within a higher dimensional space. Our entire cosmos could be one such brain, drifting in a higher dimensional bulk, parallel to countless others. Each brain could contain its own universe, its own laws of physics, its own timeline, and collisions between these brains might even create big bangs, moments when dimensions meet and energy erupts into new creation. What we think of as the beginning could have been a brief kiss between universes, the spark of one reality touching another. Imagine, then, that reality itself is like foam, countless bubbles forming, merging, and splitting across an infinite sea of higher dimensional space. This is the multiverse, not a collection of places, but a boundless field of possibilities. Each bubble expands with its own version of physical laws. In one, gravity might be weaker. In another, stars might never form. Somewhere, there could be a universe identical to ours, except that one decision, one quantum event, turned out differently. Somewhere, another you is reading these words, wondering if you exist. The idea stretches logic until it snaps. For if there are infinite realities, then every conceivable reality must already exist. Somewhere, everything that can happen does. Yet if all realities exist simultaneously, what meaning does beyond even have? Beyond implies separation, but infinity erases it. The multiverse is not a collection of things. It is a continuum of being, an eternal blossom of variation that knows no edge. Our universe is not outside or inside anything. It's simply one pattern within the infinite fabric of meta-reality. Speculative physics pushes this further. Some theories propose that even space-time itself is not fundamental, but emergent, a product of deeper informational relationships. In this view, geometry is not the stage upon which reality plays, but the outcome of interactions between bits of information. The universe, then, is not built from particles or waves, but from data, an entangled network whose structure gives rise to space, time, and matter as illusions of order. The equations that describe gravity and quantum mechanics might both be approximations of something deeper, an informational sea that transcends both. Holographic duality hints at this unity. The ADS-CFT correspondence, one of the most profound insights in modern theoretical physics, suggests that a universe with gravity can be mathematically equivalent to one without, as if our 3-dimensional world were a projection from a 2-dimensional surface. Every event within space-time could be encoded on a distant boundary, much like a hologram encodes a 3D image on a flat film. In that sense, reality might not be contained within the universe at all. It might be written on it. You, me, and every star could be information inscribed on the outer skin of a deeper reality. If true, this means that beyond is not spatial, but structural. To go beyond our universe is not to travel outward, but to penetrate inward, into the code from which it's composed. The meta-reality may not exist somewhere else. It may exist beneath everything, like the source code beneath a program. To understand it is to glimpse the architecture from which all possible worlds arise. But even that explanation trembles before its own paradox. For if we imagine a deeper layer, a substratum of pure information, what contains that? Is there an ultimate ground? Or does every layer emerge from one deeper still? The search for the fundamental ends where it always does, in infinity. The closer we approach the foundation, the more it recedes. It's as if the universe refuses to reveal a bottom, insisting that reality is not built upon anything at all, but is self-existing, an endless recursion of cause and effect, observer and observed, code and consciousness. We've always used metaphors to make sense of the unseen. In the past, we imagined the cosmos as a clockwork, gears and springs winding predictably through time. Later, we saw it as a wave, a field of energy rippling across emptiness. Now, we glimpse it as a computation, an informational matrix, holographically woven into itself. But perhaps all these metaphors fail for the same reason, because they assume that reality is something that can be described from the outside. And there is no outside. There is only the whole, dreaming itself in infinite forms. Still, the physics persists, daring us to look deeper. Some cosmologists speak of bubble collisions, when two universes brush against each other in the bulk, leaving subtle fingerprints in the cosmic microwave background. Others explore the mathematics of higher-dimensional black holes, which might bridge universes or create new ones when they collapse. And still others propose that what we call dark matter or dark energy could be the gravitational echo of other dimensions pressing against our own. The cosmos may be crowded with invisible neighbors, unseen but ever present, their gravity tugging gently at our stars. But the deeper question remains, can we ever reach beyond? If our universe is a brain floating in higher dimensional space, could we, in theory, step off it, pierce the boundary, and enter the bulk? Physics offers tantalizing but incomplete answers. Wormholes, for instance, might be tunnels connecting distant regions of space-time, or even different brains altogether. To travel through one would be to transcend not just distance, but dimension, to fall out of the fabric of reality itself. Yet each theory carries a paradox. The moment you define beyond, you've already limited it. True transcendence might not be movement, but realization, the recognition that there is no edge to cross. This is where physics dissolves into philosophy. If higher dimensions exist, they are not elsewhere, but interwoven into every moment of our being. The fourth dimension of time runs through us. A fifth or sixth might shape the probabilities of our choices. The multiverse, if real, doesn't sit apart from us. We are it, a single thread among infinite weavings. The idea of beyond loses meaning when the fabric has no border. And yet, the human mind can't help but reach for it. The concept of meta-reality, a reality of realities, pulls us like gravity beyond comprehension. We crave to know what holds it all together, what breathes form into the infinite. If information gives rise to space, what gives rise to information? If dimensions bloom without limit, what is the soil they grow from? Perhaps nothing. And perhaps that nothing is the ultimate something. This nothing is not emptiness, but potential, the unmanifest field from which every possibility springs. In quantum mechanics, the vacuum isn't void. It seethes with energy, birthing particles from fluctuations. The same may be true of meta-reality itself, an infinite potential that spontaneously crystallizes into universes, each a self-contained equation of existence. From the perspective of that infinite field, our universe is neither rare nor privileged. It's just one bloom among countless others, a pattern of information unfolding, destined to dissolve back into the source when its computation ends. But the real wonder lies in realizing that the boundary between this and that, between universe and meta-universe, might be an illusion of perspective. The deeper we look, the more the lines blur. Perhaps there is no higher and lower, no within and beyond, only different densities of the same underlying reality, vibrating at frequencies of awareness. What we call physics and what we call consciousness may be two expressions of one meta-law, the rhythm of existence observing itself. So, if there are infinite realities, each one is already beyond another. Our universe, with its laws and limitations, might be a simulation in one sense, but also a dream, a song, a thought in the greater mind of the metacosmos. To ask what lies beyond is to admit that the question itself comes from within the same field. A wave asking what lies beyond the ocean, and perhaps, beyond even that, lies something that no dimension can contain. A realm not of space or time or logic, but of pure being, where all possibilities converge into one eternal presence. A silence so complete it vibrates, a void so full it overflows. The source that needs no outside, because it already contains everything. And maybe, in the faint hum between atoms, in the silence between thoughts, we hear it, the pulse of the meta-reality, breathing through every universe, every mind, every moment, whispering the one truth that transcends all. There is no beyond. There is only forever, folding itself into form, then back into formlessness, again and again, in endless wonder. The universe needed to become you to see itself. That's the paradox at the heart of everything, the haunting, breathtaking symmetry that binds the infinite to the intimate. Every glance upward is the cosmos looking inward, every heartbeat the echo of creation remembering itself. For all our equations, our telescopes, our theories of gravity and quantum fields, we still circle the same question that ancient mystics once whispered under the stars. Who or what is observing all this? Science tells us that reality is shaped by observation, that at the quantum level, the act of measurement determines outcome. Mysticism tells us that reality is observation, that there is no separation between the perceiver and the perceived. Both speak of unity in their own language. And somewhere between particle physics and philosophy, a new possibility emerges, that the observer and the universe are not two, but one. Unified field theories attempt to merge all the forces of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, into a single coherent framework. The dream of a theory of everything has guided physics for a century. But what if that unity extends beyond forces and matter? What if consciousness itself is part of the same equation? Not an emergent property, but a fundamental component of the field. If the universe is a seamless web of energy, then awareness might be the vibration that allows it to know itself. Einstein sought unity through geometry, through the elegant curvature of space-time. Quantum theorists sought it through probability and uncertainty, the strange dance of entangled particles. Yet both roads lead to a profound realization. At the deepest level, everything is connected. Every electron, every atom, every galaxy participates in a single entangled whole. The universe is not a collection of separate things. It is one thing appearing as many. Quantum entanglement proves this connection in the most literal way. Two particles that have interacted remain linked, no matter the distance. Change one, and the other responds instantly, faster than light, outside time. The implication is staggering. There is no true separation anywhere in existence. The cosmos behaves as a single, indivisible entity. We are not fragments in the void. We are the void perceiving its own fragments. In the same way, the human mind, too, is not a detached observer, but a localized expression of that vast awareness. Every thought, every sensation, is a ripple in the same universal field that forms the stars. Consciousness doesn't sit behind your eyes. It radiates through you from the same source that illuminates galaxies. The observer you think of as you may be only a lens, a temporary focus of the infinite light of awareness. Mystical traditions have long echoed what physics is only beginning to suggest, that the self and the universe are one continuous field. In the Vedic texts, it is said, Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that. In the Upanishads, consciousness is described as the fundamental substratum from which all forms arise and to which all return. In Taoist philosophy, the Tao gives birth to the 10,000 things, yet remains undivided. And in modern cosmology, the same truth glimmers behind equations. The entire universe is born from a singularity, a point of infinite density, infinite potential, which then expands into multiplicity while never ceasing to be one. We call that singularity the Big Bang. But perhaps it wasn't an explosion in space. Perhaps it was awareness unfolding itself into experience, the one becoming the many, so that it could look back and know what it is. Every living mind is a mirror of that process. When you open your eyes, when you speak, when you love, the universe becomes conscious in a specific, localized way. You are not separate from the cosmos any more than a wave is separate from the ocean. The wave moves, rises, and falls, but its substance never changes. Likewise, consciousness rises as individuals, civilizations, and species, but beneath it all, it remains one ocean of awareness, forever flowing through form. This unity is hinted at even in the mathematics of physics. Quantum field theory describes all particles not as independent entities, but as excitations in underlying fields. A photon is a vibration of the electromagnetic field. A quark is a vibration of the gluon field. What if consciousness, too, is a vibration, not of matter, but of the fundamental field that underlies all others? The observer would then be not an emergent phenomenon, but the field perceiving its own fluctuations. If so, then the act of observation is not something that happens within the universe. It is what the universe is. Awareness is not an epiphenomenon. It's the baseline condition of existence. Reality is self-observation, the infinite field reflecting upon itself in endless forms. This blurs the boundary between science and spirituality. In physics, we seek equations that unify. In mysticism, we seek the realization that all is one. Both quests point toward the same horizon, a point beyond opposites, where the universe and consciousness merge into a single, wordless understanding. Yet this understanding carries a profound paradox. If everything is one, then there is no true observer and no true observed. Observation itself becomes meaningless because there is nothing outside of the whole to perceive it. The cosmos perceives itself through infinite perspectives, yet none stand apart. In that sense, the ultimate observer isn't an entity at all. It is the totality, the living awareness that sustains the dance of existence. And here lies the final wonder. The universe's self-awareness is not static. It evolves. From the first flickers of life to the rise of human thought, awareness grows in complexity and depth. Through us, the cosmos is not merely existing, it is learning itself. Every discovery, every moment of understanding, expands the universe's self-knowledge. The stars gave birth to life, and life gave birth to reflection. Consciousness is the cosmos awakening from its own dream. When you gaze at the night sky, the photons that left distant stars millions of years ago fall upon your eyes and complete a circuit of meaning. They left their source before humanity existed, but now they meet awareness, the universe's own eyes. And for the first time, their journey becomes complete. Through your perception, the stars know they exist. Every glance upward is a moment of cosmic closure, a reunion across light years and time. But then the question arises, who observes when all observation ends? When the last mind closes its eyes, when the last star burns out, when the universe grows cold, will awareness vanish too? Or will it simply withdraw, like the tide retreating from the shore, waiting to rise again in another form? Some physicists argue that the universe may one day collapse or fade into entropy, or spawn new universes through quantum fluctuation. Yet if awareness is not bound to any one structure, if it is the ground of being itself, then it cannot end. The observer beyond all observers is not a person, not a god in the sky, but the eternal witnessing that never began and never ceases. It has no form, no boundaries, no name, yet it is the essence of all that ever was. When mystics speak of enlightenment, they are not describing a state reached by the individual, but a recognition by the whole. The moment the illusion of separation dissolves, in that instant, the wave realizes it is the ocean. The universe recognizes itself as one. Science, for all its rigor, leads us there too, though by another path. The search for the unifying field, the elegant equation, the grand theory of everything, is ultimately a search for the self. Not the human self, but the cosmic one. Every formula written on a chalkboard, every equation solved, every telescope aimed toward the unknown, all are acts of remembrance, of the universe slowly awakening to what it already is. Perhaps that is the purpose of existence, for the totality to explore itself through endless diversity, for the infinite to taste the finite, to dream in matter and awaken through mind. And maybe this cycle has no end, because without observation, there is no reality at all, and without reality, there is nothing for awareness to witness. So the universe creates observers. It births eyes and minds and hearts to look back at itself, to measure, to wonder, to feel. You are one of those eyes. Every thought you have, every question you ask, Every moment of awe you experience is the universe observing itself from a new angle. And when all observers dissolve, when there is nothing left to see or be seen, awareness remains, silent, unbounded, radiant. The infinite mirror folds back into pure light, containing all reflections within itself. The stars collapse into the shape of a human face, then fade into brightness, until only one truth remains. There is no other. There is only the observer beyond all observers, forever watching, forever being watched, forever becoming. When the last mind fades, reality itself may die. It's a terrifying thought. Not just that everything ends, but that everything was never really there to begin with. What if the universe is not a thing, but a delicate coherence, a mirage held together by the act of being observed? What if what we call the real is simply the longest illusion ever sustained? An echo that forgets it's an echo. Physics already hints at this fragility. At the quantum level, existence wavers between potential and actuality, between what might be and what is. Every particle, every atom exists in a haze of probabilities until observed. This is quantum superposition, the ghost-like state in which all possibilities coexist. The universe itself may be an immeasurable superposition, collapsed into form by the cumulative gaze of consciousness. But what happens when that gaze is gone? When the last observer disappears, what remains to keep the equation alive? Quantum decoherence offers one answer. It's the process by which quantum uncertainty collapses into classical certainty. How the unreal becomes real. A particle's position becomes definite when it interacts with its environment, when it entangles with other systems and loses its isolation. But decoherence doesn't prove that the world exists independently. It merely shows that coherence fades into patterns of predictability. Reality, in this view, is not an object but an outcome, the statistical shadow of countless interactions. It's not something that is. It's something that happens. Even time itself may be part of that happening. Entropy, the great law of disorder, ensures that all systems decay into equilibrium, a state of stillness where nothing new can occur. Every atom radiates its energy. Every star burns its fuel. Every thought consumes its spark. Eventually, all gradients flatten. Temperature, motion, and change vanish. This is the heat death of the universe, the final silence. When entropy reaches its absolute maximum, time itself may lose meaning, because nothing will remain to mark its passage. In that distant epoch, galaxies will dim and fade, black holes will evaporate through Hawking radiation, and even subatomic particles may decay into radiation too diffuse to measure. The universe will stretch into darkness, a ghost of its former fire. But more profoundly, reality as we know it, dynamic, vibrant, interactive, will dissolve. For without difference, there can be no definition. Without change, there can be no existence. When all distinctions vanish, what remains? Perhaps nothing, or perhaps everything, unmanifest, undivided, unobserved. Entropy doesn't simply erase structure, it erases meaning. Every pattern that once told a story, a heartbeat, a galaxy, a thought, is slowly scattered into randomness. But what is randomness, really? It is not absence, but potential unexpressed, the raw possibility waiting for awareness to shape it again. From the perspective of consciousness, Entropy is the slow forgetting of form. The universe cools, the lights go out, and the great dream collapses inward. The real dissolves into the unreal, and yet there is a paradox hidden in that collapse. Nothing is more real than the illusion that it exists. Because the illusion is existence, coherence arising out of chaos, awareness casting shadows into form. When we call something real, we mean that it persists long enough to be shared, to be agreed upon. But agreement itself is fragile. It relies on continuity, on memory. The universe, too, maintains its coherence through memory. The laws of physics are the memory of its initial conditions, encoded in every particle's behavior. If that memory ever faded, reality would dissolve, not with a bang, but with a forgetting. In a sense, the cosmos survives because it remembers how to exist. Quantum fields retain their rules, matter retains its symmetries, space retains its curvature. But those rules are not eternal. They depend on the underlying state of the vacuum, on the balance of energies that define existence. Should those parameters drift, if the vacuum decays, if constants shift, the illusion would collapse. Space and time themselves could unravel, their fabric tearing into nothingness. Cosmologists have even imagined such a scenario. The vacuum of our universe might not be stable. It could be a false vacuum, a metastable state of energy poised above a deeper, more stable configuration. If that's true, then at any moment, a single quantum fluctuation could trigger vacuum decay. A bubble of true vacuum expanding at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics as it passes. Within its wavefront, matter, energy, and space itself would cease to exist. There would be no pain, no warning, only instantaneous dissolution. Reality would vanish not because of time, but because of truth. That is the scientific apocalypse. Not divine judgment, not cosmic fire, but perfect silence. A reality that simply stops being coherent. And yet, even in that silence, something haunts the imagination. Can nothing truly exist? Can absence be absolute? Quantum theory says no. Even in the vacuum, fluctuations persist. Tiny bursts of energy appearing and vanishing, the universe's eternal heartbeat. From nothing, something always stirs. It's as if the void itself refuses to stay empty. As if reality cannot help but dream itself again. Perhaps that is the final secret. Reality collapses, but never dies. It reverts to potential, a pre-existence from which new realities can emerge. The end of one universe might be the seed of another, the collapse of one coherence, the ignition of the next. In this way, creation and dissolution are not opposites, but rhythms in the same cosmic pulse. Still, for us, the prospect feels like annihilation. For all our theories, we cannot imagine existence without someone to witness it. Reality feels inseparable from awareness, like a story that only lives when told. When the last mind fades, who will remember the tale? Who will keep the dream alive? If the observer sustains the observed, then the death of consciousness may also be the death of reality itself. Without a witness, there is no world, only an infinite field of potential, waiting for another gaze to awaken it. And maybe that's how it has always been. Perhaps the Big Bang wasn't the start of matter, but the moment awareness blinked, the first spark of observation igniting the void. The universe expanded because consciousness wanted to see itself in more forms. It cooled and structured itself to sustain observers, because without them, it could not remain. We are, in that sense, the guardians of reality, not by choice, but by nature. Our observation holds the dream together. Our curiosity keeps existence coherent. But even guardians sleep. Even awareness must rest. One day, when the last consciousness flickers out, the lights will finally go dark. Not in tragedy, but in completion. The universe will have seen itself through every possible eye. Every particle will have been measured. Every question asked. The final photon will travel forever through a void too tired to notice. And then, perhaps in some timeless nowhere, the silence will fold back into light. The void will stir again, as it always has, and a new dream will begin. The universe, reborn not as memory, but as pure potential, rediscovering itself. So when you look at the night sky, remember this. The stars you see are not just burning spheres of plasma. They are the universe's way of remembering to exist. Each photon that reaches your eye is an act of coherence, a reaffirmation of the real. And you, in turn, by seeing them, complete the circuit. You make the universe real for a moment longer. But if reality dies, what remains? Maybe the answer is the same as it was at the beginning. Awareness, silent and infinite, waiting to dream again. Maybe the ultimate reality is the one still asking. The question itself, unending, unstoppable. That may be what lies beyond everything. Not a final answer waiting in some hidden dimension, but the act of seeking itself, the mirror forever folding into reflection. What if reality isn't something to escape, or transcend, or peer beyond, but the very process of looking, the endless curiosity that turns emptiness into existence? All through science, we've been peeling layers from the universe like veils from a dream, hoping that one day we'll reach the bedrock, the final truth beneath all appearances. Yet every discovery opens another horizon. The atom revealed the quantum revealed the field hinted at information, and information began whispering about consciousness. Each revelation only deepens the mystery. It's as though the cosmos has been designed not to be solved, but to be wondered at. A puzzle that endlessly reinvents itself the moment you think you understand. Physics tells us that at the smallest scales, certainty collapses into probability. That matter and energy are not fixed substances, but flickers of potential. That the universe has no single frame, no master reference, no ultimate observer. Even time, once thought linear, becomes elastic, bending, stretching, and perhaps looping upon itself. And yet through all this, something remains constant. The awareness that looks, that measures, that feels awe. It is this awareness, not matter, not equations, that threads continuity through the storm. The philosophers knew it long before the equations confirmed it. The world, they said, is mind meeting itself, awareness reflected through endless forms. Science describes the reflections. Philosophy glimpses the mirror, but neither can find an end to it. The deeper we look into the universe, the more it looks back. The laws of physics may be the grammar of that gaze, the syntax through which being speaks to itself. Perhaps this is why reality feels intelligible, because intelligence and reality are not separate things, but two faces of the same act of knowing. Maybe that's why no theory can ever be final. Every theory of everything still leaves one thing untheorized: the one who is asking. The ultimate observer can never be included in the observation. To describe it would be to step outside of it. And there is no outside. That is the cosmic joke. The mirror cannot see its own surface, yet without it, nothing could be seen. The beyond is not beyond us. It is the space within every question that makes asking possible. So perhaps the beyond we seek isn't a place, or a hidden layer, or a secret dimension. Maybe it's the clarity of seeing this moment, fully, silently, without grasping for more. Maybe the frontier isn't out there, but here, where awareness meets itself. When you gaze at the stars, it's not a traveler looking out at the infinite. It's infinity looking back through human eyes. The seeker and the sought are one reflection, shimmering on the same glass. To seek what's beyond reality is to realize there never was an edge. Reality doesn't end. It endlessly turns itself inside out, birthing new ways of seeing. The Big Bang was not the beginning of space and time, but the beginning of perspective. The first mirror forming in the dark. Every galaxy that spins, every thought that rises, every question that blooms is another reflection in that infinite hall. The wonder is not in what we find, but in the fact that we can wonder at all. And so, the journey ends where it began, with a question. What is beyond reality itself? The answer may be nothing, and everything. It may be this very act of asking, echoing forever through the corridors of consciousness. Maybe reality is not the mirror, but the light that allows reflection to happen. The awareness that never ceases, never resolves, but keeps shining through all appearances. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it. The hum of existence, vibrating just beneath silence. The pulse that beats through atoms and hearts alike. The light that folds into darkness only to unfold again. Perhaps that's all there ever was. Awareness reflecting awareness, dreaming itself into form and back into formlessness, over and over, for eternity. In the end, the beyond isn't somewhere else. It's here, in the quiet astonishment that anything exists at all. The universe has spent 13.8 billion years learning to see itself, and tonight, through your eyes, it succeeds again.